Good evening and welcome to the Leon County School Board meeting. Today's date is February 9th, 2021. We are meeting at the Aquilina Howell Center at 3955 West Pensacola Street, Tallahassee, Florida. Board member Rasmussen will be joining us via Zoom, and we are here today on this early Valentine's celebration, I should ask. And so to our students and staff and faculty, we wish you much love and happiness in this month. And we want to thank whoever is responsible for these beautiful, I'm going to call them lilies that we have here. Mr. Superintendent, did you do that?
I would love to take credit, Madam Chair, but I must give credit where credit is due. And Dr. Michelle Gale, on my behalf,
Oh my goodness.
purchased these beautiful lilies for our lovely ladies.
Tulips.
Oh,
They're tulips.
oh, Lily, that's a tulip.
They are tulips.
These beautiful tulips for our lovely ladies of the board, and well as for Mr. Jones. our
Yes.
lone male
Yes,
school
yes.
board member.
We thank you for thinking of us, Dr. Gale. And so now we will move into our opening agenda with our student school board member, Ms. Asha Harris, introducing students.
Reading the pledge today, we have Illyria Thompson Felix. She attends Woodville and is in 8th grade. She's accompanied by her mother, Olivia Adams, as well as her principal, Dr. Murr. Some school activities she's involved in are National FFA Organization and National Beta Club. Her honors consist of Algebra 1 honors and Agriculture Science honors. She's interested in reading. Her favorite book is Flowers of Algernon, and she also likes to draw.
Okay. There she is. We need to stand.
All right, we're ready for you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good
Justice
job.
for all.
Great. Good job. Yes, go on. Okay. And now the thought for the day, Ms. Harris.
For the thought of the day, Cash Andrews from Woodville in 3rd grade is accompanied by his mother, Jess Andrews, his father, Josh Andrews, and principal, Dr. Murr. He participates enthusiastically, in school spirit activities and celebrations. His honors consist of all A honor roll, top AR reader in his grade. He's also a gifted student. He's interested in science and history, loves baseball, and especially Jackie Robinson, and is an avid learner.
All right. So he's up next. Cash?
Cash, you there? You have to speak. Make sure you speak up, okay, big man?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
I would like to share a quote from the Michael Jordan.
All right.
Champions do not become champions when they win an event, but in the hours, weeks, months, and years they spend preparing for it. The victorious performance itself is merely a demonstration of their championship character. Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you. That's wonderful.
Amen.
Great. Outstanding. Thank you both for that thought and for leading us into the Pledge of Allegiance. I think there might be parents with you or in the background on Zoom. Can they kind of peep ahead and give us a wave or something? The principal, I think, is around. There they are.
Mom.
Yes. Hello.
Hey, Mom.
There.
Yay.
Thank you all for what you do. You make us look so good. Thanks. Great job, everybody.
Good job.
Okay, so we've got all of the wonderful achievements out of the way of these students. And look at the smiles. We appreciate that so much. Thank each of you for being here today. Just before
Thank you, guys. We really appreciate it. Good luck with your homework tonight.
You too.
Just
Thank
before
you.
we get to just before we get to our changes and additions, I am noticing a change in the corner of the room, and I think this could be a good time to find out who that signing person is. Is there another place on the program that we'll talk about that? But we have an individual who is joining us, and it's so new, I thought that we'd have someone talk about that. If not at this point, then at another time in the agenda. Dr. Gale, you've got
yes,
this covered? All right, good. Thank you, ma'am. We are cutting edge.
Good evening, Madam Chair,
Yes.
Vice Chair, Superintendent, and school board members. Tonight, we have joining us two finding out so much about sign language and interpreting and different things like that. We have two people joining us. We have Miss Heidi, and if she could give us, or actually she's signing right now, so she can't she can't say hi. And we also have Miss Betty, who are here with us, and in the abundance of making sure that we're reaching all of our audience and providing information, because we know that our public looks at our school board meetings to find out about the great things that are going on in our school system. We will have them here.
Good. Thank you, and we welcome them. And that's a great catch, as it were. And thank you, ladies, for being here. We really appreciate your service. Just before we get to our changes and additions with Mr. Jones, I'd just like to say, and not remind, but just say that, as you already know, this is February, African American History Month, the shortest month in the year. And I'm happy to report and inform those of you who may not be aware that Leon County Schools is one of 9 districts who has been determined to be an exemplary school district as a result of having this board's approval of initiatives for K through 12 disciplinary, interdisciplinary, African American Studies curriculum with a plan. This is being appreciated by all, and in my mind, it certainly says that we just don't wait until February to talk about the achievements and the accomplishments of African Americans in the United States of America and the contributions that they've made throughout the world. And so I continue to commend this superintendent and his staff for the outstanding job that they are doing as they bring evidence to the school district to have the development of ongoing professional plans for training teachers and students and school staff and strategists for teaching African American history. Some of you may recall that former school board member Maggie Lewis Butler worked with the state strategic planning effort to make certain that this would happen in Leon County Schools. And so today, because of that work and the superintendent's work, the resources that are there for the teaching of African American history through the books and CDs and the digital media and the lesson plans are available to support the required instruction. And just in case you're interested in looking at state statutes which require this instruction, it is found in State Statute 1003.42. It talks about the history of African Americans, including the history of African people before the political conflicts that led to the development of slavery, the passage to America, the enslavement experience, abolition, and the contribution of African Americans to society. Now, what does that really mean? That means that in our campuses and on the high school sites, on the school sites, that someone is teaching something about the achievements of African Americans in the curriculum every day, not just waiting for February to account for or talk about these achievements and contributions. And so we want to thank the superintendent and staff for making sure that this content is there and that it is continuing to be infused throughout all of the areas of the curriculum, particularly through those STEM classes that are being taught. And so with that, I will say that later this month, perhaps at our, not perhaps, it is planned at our second meeting of the month that there will be additional information provided about what the system is doing in working with community and various stakeholders and partnerships to encourage and increase the understanding of the importance of American history to have it include all of its people. I expect that Dr. Gale, maybe a little bit later on, will talk a little bit more about that. And certainly Mr. Jones mentioned some ideas that he had bringing Ms. Barnes in later during this month. So I needed to offer that as an introduction. Though we are sitting here looking pretty in our red and white, we really are about the business of making certain that we continue to find the kind of balance in our community for teaching all of our students and finding ways to continue to do what is right because it is the right thing to do. With that being said, Mr. Jones, would you please go?
Madam Chair, if I may interrupt, I don't know if y'all are paying attention, but the young third grader, Mr. Cash from Woodville, if he referenced, he loves baseball, and his favorite player was number 42, Jackie Robinson.
Yes, he did.
And his quote tonight was from Michael Jordan.
Yes, so proof positive. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. We do outstanding things here, and it would do well for many to emulate what we do. All right, we're ready now for changes and additions, please.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Jones.
for changes and additions, we have the following. The superintendent recommends approval of changes and additions to the February 9th, 2021 school board meeting agenda as presented. Add item 19.02. The superintendent recommends approval of the 2021-2022 and 2022-2023 regular school year calendars. This item was added after District Advisory Council approval. 2, add item 19.03. The superintendent recommends approval to advertise amendments to Policy 8407, Safe School Officers, for a public hearing and adoption on March 23rd, 2021. This item was added after completing policy language. 3, add item 19.04, acceptance of the modified Safe School Plan for compliance with Florida State Statute 1006.12. This item was added due to time constraints. Number 4, item 19.03. The superintendent recommends approval to advertise amendments to Policy 8407, Safe School Officers, for a public hearing and adoption on March 23rd, 2021, replaced documentation. 5, item 19.04, acceptance of the modified Safe School Plan for compliance with Florida State Statute 1006.12, date change in the item summary. Those are our changes and additions.
Is there a motion to approve these changes?
Second.
Moved by Wood, second by Strickland. All in favor? Questions? Hear none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposes? Nay. It passes unanimously. Superintendent Spotlight.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
if I
sir.
may, we do have someone in our spotlight this evening. Have a special guest, Mr. Willie Brown is with us tonight, a teacher at Appalachia Elementary School, where he works in the STEM program, and he is an esteemed author who has published 6 books over the course of his life, and we have invited him to share a little bit about his journey as an author. Mr. Brown, so if you would come up, come on up to the podium here and tell us a little bit about your work in the area of children's books, and then other little known fact: he's probably one of the best, if not the best, DJs in Tallahassee in Leon County. So he is certainly a valuable resource to our school system and to our community. So thank you for joining us tonight.
It is my pleasure. First and foremost, I want to offer some thank yous to some very important people. Superintendent, I want to thank you for this opportunity to come and present myself and my works. I want to thank the school board. Many of you I know by name. And most importantly, I definitely want to thank my principal, Ms. Ricardo, who may be with us online, but maybe not necessarily in person. And of course, my number one fan is in the corner, my wife.
All right, yeah. Everybody needs a number one.
I've had the pleasure of teaching science in Leon County schools and in Leon County in general for almost 23 years. When I was young, a seventh grade science teacher asked me, "What are you going to be?" I told him, "I'm going pro." And he said, "What if you don't make it?" I said, "Coach, you know I'm going to make it, but if I don't make it, I want to teach." And my wife and I, we argue all the time. She's asking me, "What's next for you?" And I keep telling her that I love the classroom. I keep telling her that I love to teach. I keep telling her that every year I get a new set of kids that I get an opportunity to encourage to be a better version of themselves. I've had the pleasure of teaching at John G. Riley. I've had the pleasure of teaching at Pineview Elementary. I've had the pleasure of teaching at Griffin. And I've had the pleasure of teaching at Appalachia Tapestry Magnet School of the Art, the best school in town. And what I've done, there's three things that I'm really good at. I'm good at music, I'm good at sleeping, and I've learned that I'm very good at writing. To date, I've penned more than 130 stories. Many of those stories are about kids in our school systems. Book number one, I Hate Home, I Hate School, is an autobiography. As a child, I hated home. My father was murdered when I was 5. My mom was a raging alcoholic. My house was falling apart. But I had a teacher that encouraged me, Dicey Burks. She encouraged me. She told me I was different. She told me I could be the best thing that my family's ever known. She told me that with school, with my grades, I can have anything that I've ever dreamt of. Today, I tell Ms. Burks as often as I can, thank you. You'd be amazed the power that one caring teacher has in a child's life. I try to be that teacher. On Friday, my kids come to my classroom because I got the popcorn machine. And if they had a good week, they can get a bag of popcorn from Mr. Brown. At the end of the day, my kids, when they leave my classroom, if they've had a good day, they can get a treat. I spend my own monies to make that happen. I love the kids. I love teaching. And what I'm asking with the spotlight is that I have some bad news. After 30 years of being in Tallahassee, my family and I are relocating. We're heading to Tampa Bay. I used to leave Tallahassee during spring break.
You said going pro, you really meant going pro, huh?
Oh,
You're
yeah,
a little
I went
late
pro.
to go pro, you like me.
I played pro baseball for the Florida Marlins as well. I did make it.
All right.
But my spring breaks have always been spent traveling to other school districts. In Tallahassee, I'm Mr. Brown or Coach Brown. When I go away, I'm Rockhead the Great. The kids in Jacksonville, Duval County know me as Rockhead the Great. The kids in Tampa know me as Rockhead the Great. The kids in Fort Lauderdale, they know me, Broward County, they know me as Rockhead the Great. The kids back home in South Georgia know me as Rockhead the Great. The kids in Alabama know me as Rockhead the Great. I'm glad I had a brother that yelled at me and told me that our kids in Leon County need it just as much as you do, as those kids do. And I thank that brother for encouraging me to take the leap of faith and to step to you guys. I'm hoping that when I leave, that I can come back to Leon County. I'm hoping that Rockhead the Great can come back to our students, because many of those 130 stories are about them. Momo the Chihuahua is about one of my former students, Maurice, a little short guy who's an Omega lamplighter now. One day he got in trouble and he learned to control himself, and I appreciate Momo more than he'll ever know. And I could keep going. Don't poke the bear. It was about a group of kids that kept poking the cafeteria manager. They did everything she told them not to do. And so I keep writing stories about them. I'm hoping that somehow, some way, if Tampa doesn't work out, that Leon County will allow me to come back. And that there'll be a job waiting on me at some school.
Yes.
And I just want to thank you. I don't know, when I was at my lowest, Leon County Schools gave me an opportunity.
Amen.
When I was fired from a job, Leon County gave me an opportunity to teach. And I am very thankful for that. I try to hide from the spotlight. I try to stay in the background. I avoid cameras at all costs, because behind every successful leader, Superintendent Hannah, there are a bunch of people that are working in the background that don't get in front of the camera, that don't get an opportunity to speak. So on behalf of Appalachia, on behalf of my wife, on behalf of Leon County Schools and all the students that I represent, I just want to say thank you to everyone in this room. The work that you have done to keep us safe, the work that you have done to get our kids into these classrooms, they need it more than you'll ever know. Yes, I am sanitizing 5-10 times a day, but I thank you guys for giving me and my children, my students, an opportunity to learn and grow. And I gifted complimentary copies of the stories.
Oh, wonderful.
They're great.
Thank you so much, Mr. Brown. What a wonderful role model.
Yeah, and I did not know what to expect, but I certainly didn't
Neither.
expect you to say goodbye.
Me either.
Huh?
Did I?
It's her fault.
Is there anything we can do, or just?
Yeah.
I mean, you always have a job. Look, you always have a job here. I mean, you're amazing. And I've watched you work from a.
Nonprofit organization called Project Smile.
Okay,
Which stands for serving and mentoring youth in
Well,
low-income
excuse me,
environments.
come back to the microphone if you don't mind, Mr. Brown, because we'd like to get a picture with you, please. I think, yeah, let's do that. We don't have to stand close, but we need a nice picture. Please.
Superintendent Hannah,
Thank you.
at John G. Riley, I started an organization called Bears to Men.
Sure did.
John Riley was Bears to Men. Me and the kids, we play basketball after school. And the idea of a nonprofit jumped into my head. And I started a nonprofit called Rockhead Synergy, and I did a name change, Project Smile, which stands for serving and mentoring youth in low-income environments. And my friend Timothy Mosley, who runs the Less Fortunate Still Matters Foundation, we give bicycles to kids. We do toy drives. I've DJ'd free Valentine's Day dances at schools. Any school can reach out to me. Title I has. Do their events for free. You know, with that, I just want to give back. Anything that our kids are involved in, I try to make it work. And I'm moving in the direction, Appalachia gave me an opportunity to create a science curriculum. I'm teaching science in the wheel to grades K through 5. Miss Ricardo took a leap of faith, and I haven't let her down. I've got kindergartners flying drones. I've got my ESE kids that are wiring circuits. We're doing it. And, you know, Project Smile also means science makes your lives easier. It took me a while to figure that one out. But, you know, an after-school program is in the works. All of these things, I'm hoping that spring break I can come back to Tallahassee, spend some time with friends that I'm leaving behind, and also, you know, maybe reach out to those kids that I'm leaving and
Wonderful.
Continue to give. And I forgot to mention that.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
No,
We
thank you.
appreciate you. We do.
Thank
We
you
do.
guys.
And come back and visit us
It
regularly.
has been a good ride. 30 years in Tallahassee. I came as a college freshman in 1988, 89. Met my wonderful brother, Daryl Jones. And, you know, it's been a good ride. But my son, who is I wrote a story about him, the greatest thing I've ever done, is going to the University of Tampa.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Makes sense now.
Great. Thank you. Travel safely, and we appreciate
Thank
your
you.
wonderful things you've done
All right,
here.
so we can get a picture?
Well,
You
know
said it.
what? I
You
did
said we
say
had
it.
to
Yeah,
now.
let's spread out here a little bit. We don't want to do anything that's going to cause us to be in a.
Again, thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna spread out. Spread it so that we don't spread it. That's it. There are lots of cameras. Okay, thank you all.
You want to look at Miss Coffee first, so we're all looking at the same place?
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
My pleasure.
This is really important to
Yeah.
us, because we have been taking pictures.
Anything that I can do to help the school board, anything that I can do, I have
Thank
a
you,
lot of
guys.
skills
I
and
appreciate
talents.
that.
I know.
Thank
I
you.
know.
Okay.
Madam
All right.
Chair,
Mr. Jones.
I'd be remiss if I did not acknowledge Mr.
Of
Brown.
course.
Mr. Brown and our classmates came to Florida A&M University together back in 1988.
Talk to the microphone.
I'm not.
I don't know, your
I think the
mask
shield.
is, the
It's a
shield
shield.
is blocking it a little bit. Put your mask on.
Is this
though.
better?
Yes, with the mask, it is, sir.
All right. Willie Brown and I came to college together back in 1988 as freshman brothers at Florida A&M University. He was a stellar scholar athlete. What I think has been most important, one, we acknowledge him today. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent, for making him your spotlight. Not only has he donated books to each and every one of us, those same titles that he talked about today, he is also making available to our Leon County school students across our Title I schools. And those titles will be used particularly during this season where we're putting an emphasis on reading during these months as we approach what we know will be our testing season. His books will be given to our children for them to take home to read. So he is, for however long he remains with our Leon County schools, representative of what I would like to describe as our own authors in residence in our Leon County schools. And I think as a school district, to put a focus on that type of talent in our district, that type of selflessness and philanthropy and generosity in our district, I thank the superintendent for acknowledging him, and I thank my classmate and friend for his contributions to our Leon County schools. Finally, there's no kinder word than the word coach. Willie is not just coach on the campuses where he is taught. He is also revered as a leader who does not require the formality of classrooms to provide teaching moments. And we will miss that in our Leon County schools, but we are certain that for you, my classmate, the best is yet to come.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Jones, and thank you, Mr. Brown. I really like Rockhead the Great myself.
Don't you though?
I love Rockhead the Great. What, were you and he in Eva Wanton's class together? I can tell. I knew it. I knew. Let me just say to you all why that's so important to us. Eva Wanton was an African American woman who lived here in Tallahassee. Outstanding, notoriously wonderful speaker, orator, and diction was perfect. And I knew when I heard you speak that you had been influenced by her, as this one has been. And so I say to you, you continue to do wonderful things, and you're certainly all right with me. Travel safely. This is great. Thank you. All right, all minds clear? Then we'll move on to persons to be heard. Ms. Opal McKenna-Williams?
Thank you, Madam Chair. There were no emails sent to the persons to be heard at leonschools.net email address. There is one speaker here, Mr. Scott Mazer.
Okay.
Please come to the podium, give us your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you, yes. Scott Mazer, 3319 Dartmoor Drive, Tallahassee, Florida. Superintendent, school board, appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight, and enjoyed the meeting yesterday on a couple of the topics that you guys were discussing. One of the things I did want to kind of bring to mind is that Senate Bill 7030 that is going to be part of the expansion to kind of make sure that we're protecting our schools, that when you go into those things, if there's special consideration for de-escalation as part of the training and racial sensitivity, to make sure that whoever does come to those schools, what we provide for our officers is very similar to what we provide to anyone that would be in those situations. Secondly, with school choice and the different schools that are being selected, they talked about Leon, Bucklake, Gilchrist. They're all wonderful schools, but I think all of our schools are wonderful. So in terms of looking at the data as to why people are choosing those schools, maybe the question is why? And what do they maybe not know about their schools? Or what are some programs that could be replicated if that seems to be what it is? Just a little more information about that to get it out to the community, I think would be very important. Number 3, site visits. There was a story that just came out recently, or someone had posted something about a elected official visiting business owners, having conversations and things. So just really encourage everybody to go out and visit the school sites that they represent. And we're talking not fanfare or any other kind of thing, unannounced, talking to people, teachers, support staff, principals, and likewise, because each one of our schools, as you know, has unique needs. And as you as representatives of those schools have that ability to bring it to this table. So, and that's not to say that it's not happening. It's just that one of those things as a little suggestion. The other piece is there's just not sure if you know, but There has been a little bit of question about 90 days. If you test positive COVID and within that 90 days, you don't have to quarantine again when around other people. This is direction not of the school district, but of the Department of Health. But as we work together and kind of deal with calming some fears of school sites, is making sure that we have all the information and that we're communicating it effectively, because I think some of the confusion is some schools leave, or some students leave a classroom while some students stay. And so then it's not necessarily always the one size fits all based off of the situation. And communication is going to be very important in order to kind of make people feel comfortable. And to that point, I think the other thing is, having been through the process, it starts when symptoms start, not me personally, but family. And so when the 10 days begins and ends, sometimes teachers aren't told. So a student will leave after 7 days, and the student will come back, or 7 days after, but because Department of Health is telling them their 10 days started 3 days before, we just need to make sure we're letting them know, because some of those students switch back and forth between digital and brick and mortar. And last thing,
Time. Thank
appreciate
you,
it.
Mr. Mazer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mazer. Okay, is that our only?
That is it, Madam Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're at reports to be heard now. District Advisory Council. Janita Wells, Chair. Are you there and on?
I'm here and on. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name is Janita Wells, and I serve as this year's DAC Chair. I, too, want to say that Dr. Watson was actually the dean when I came into FAMU. And she's a lovely, she was a lovely woman.
Wonderful.
First, I want to say I haven't been able to provide an update, so this is going to be a little bit longer than I generally do. It's going to be over about 3 months of update. So first, I will say quickly that we thank Superintendent Hannah for coming to provide district-wide updates monthly. And he's provided updates on topics including COVID protocols and procedures, updates on COVID cases throughout the district. He's provided updates on the rollout of the laptops, which of course was very popular, as well as providing us with the information on the emergency order to hold districts not accountable for the FTE and us staying in the February 2020 numbers, which we were very excited about. So each month he provides us with an update, and we are thankful for those updates and being able to ask the superintendent directly any questions we may have. So we're thankful for that. Throughout the months, we heard from then new school board chair, Ms. Bowen, and she thanks us for our service with DAC and all the things that we do, and acknowledged that we were a great part of the school district, and that she was excited that we were continuing the work that we did.
Absolutely.
Each month, we hear a report from the SDAC representative, which is Ms. Ariana Range, who is from James S. Rickers High School. She provides us with a monthly report, and the reports have focused on the updates on the Mental Health Week, which is upcoming soon. I think some school sites have different ones, and we also have a district-wide Mental Health Week. In addition, we've heard from Dr. Benny Bolden, principal at R. Frank Nims Middle School. He provided an update on the best practices that they have going on there at NIMS, including their pre-law program, which everyone is extremely excited about. And that's part of one of our newest, I think it's our newest magnet program here in Leon County. Additionally, we heard from Dr. Kathleen Rogers, who provided us with information on the best practices in the Intervention Services Department. She gave us an overview of the work that was being done to locate and assist students who have not been engaged during the school year. And Dr. Gale has continued to give us an update on what the district is doing to engage and locate those students. We've heard from Scott Hansen, who provided us an update with student activities and athletics. And I want to just put a small plug in. Go Rickers Raiders. Congratulations to the Raiders on their on their run to the state championship. We heard from the principal of Springwood, Ms. Sylvia Myers, and she provided us an excellent update on best practices that her school is having and implementing to encourage students as well as to appreciate teachers. We've heard an update from Jessica Janasiewicz, which provided a legislative update to us for the upcoming 2021 legislative session, including legislation to watch. She provided us an overview of what's going on with the legislature and how things are going to be run. And from that, we've actually created a subcommittee, a legislative subcommittee of the DAC. That subcommittee has been meeting weekly, and we were actually able to hear from the superintendent, his top priorities. And we've heard from the Florida School Board Association. And we've come up with a list that we are finalizing. And that list will consist of all of the top priorities that we as a subcommittee feel should be addressed during the legislative session. And we will provide that to all of the members of the DAC, all parents, and anyone interested in advocating for education and giving them talking points. So it will be a one-pager, front and back type of marketing that people can use as talking points to advocate for this 2021 legislative session. In addition, we heard from Jimmy Williams, who provided an overview of the district-wide safety and security measures that we've had. And let's see, we heard from Shane Seifert, who discussed Title II and provided us an overview of Title II. We heard from Billy Ann Gay with the Florida School Board Association, and we were proud to hear that all the members of the Leon County School Board are members of the Florida School Board Association. And she discussed navigating advocacy in the new year of COVID. So she provided us updates on how you can be heard at different committee meetings and discussed the importance of speaking with your legislator while they're in their districts, and provided an overview of their policy or their priorities for the 2021 legislative session. Additionally, we heard from Jamie Holloman, which is always a very exciting thing to hear about school choice. That's that time. We're in that time now. It opened in January, closes March 1st. And like Scott said, she provided information on the schools that were that received high levels of applications. And with that, the last thing, which is probably one of the most important things, is that the DAC voted on and approved option 2 for the 2021-22 and the 22-23 calendar. And with that, that's the end of my presentation, my update. Are there any questions?
Hearing or seeing any, you don't see questions. Thank you. It was a wonderful report, and I think you did an absolute wonderful job in giving us an update for about 3 months of service, right? Good
Yes,
job.
thank you.
We thank you for your leadership. Thank you so much, Ms. Wells.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll see you next month.
Thank
Okay,
you.
we're now at 6.02, Student District Advisory Council, Lane Schulte. Schulte. Chair, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Good. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Thank you.
So SDAC met on Wednesday, February 3rd from 11:30 to around 12:30. And we discussed our attempts at improving mental health across the district and the school year calendar.
What happened?
Ms. Schulte, it's on her. I think you're freezing and we're not able to hear your sound anymore. We still cannot hear your
This
sound.
week was our first mental health week.
There you go.
We encourage students to participate in short 5-minute activities every day to improve their mental health, like going on a walk or meditating and stuff like that. And it seems like a lot of kids have been participating, so that's good.
Okay. All right, short, sweet, and to the point. Though you're still with us there, right? Yes. Can you hear us? Hello?
Hello?
Okay, can you still hear us? Good.
Yes, I can.
Good, good. Thank you so much. We appreciate the Mr. Superintendent.
Yeah,
Yes.
Madam Chair, if I may, Lane, thank you for that report. You came in and out just a little bit on us. Are you still with us or are you off?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I'm frozen, but I can hear you.
Okay, if you would, I know I said something, a question came up from a board member at our last meeting about end of the year senior activities like prom and graduation. And we have committed to a graduation. We're going to have an outdoor graduation at Gene Cox Stadium this year where kids will get to walk across the stage, which is very exciting. Also, please let your students know that we have not given up on prom for this year. I have a call in to a company that manages the town center, which is the old Tallahassee Mall, that has a really big outdoor space. So just know it's not completely dead in the water. We're still looking at potential options, and if things change after spring break and we see that we can do something, then we're going to look to try to do that, okay? But just let your folks know that it's not completely dead in the water right now. We just need to be cautious, but it may be an option in the next several months.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Triplin.
if I might too, Lane, you're still with us? Yes?
Yes, I'm here.
Awesome. So on that note, if you could also possibly solicit some dialogue from the other members of the SDAC as to what we've had a lot of regarding prom. So we've had suggestions like seniors only, or, maybe kids can't come from other schools. It can only be within the one school, or prom itself is only an hour long, instead of the 4-hour chunk. So I've heard these kinds of things. Could you possibly get some feedback from the other students? And in addition to, do they think this is not a good idea? Do they think this is unsafe and that we're encouraging, a possible super spreading activity? I would love to know what the students think about this.
Okay, I'll definitely get feedback.
That would be wonderful, and we would probably need to report back. I don't know if is she on the schedule every month or every 2 weeks? When do y'all meet again, Lane?
It's monthly, isn't it? Every month. They meet monthly, I'm understanding.
They don't meet again until March?
She reports, yes.
Before that, they don't report back to us.
That's all right.
Perfect. That's what I was going to suggest, if maybe you guys could start the dialogue, online or via chat or whatever it is you want to use, and report back to us as soon as possible, because we do have to get moving if we're going to do anything like that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We appreciate your input and look forward to you getting back with us. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Strickland, for that. Moving along now to an important piece on this agenda, item 606, random acts, the recognition for diversity and inclusion with Misty Cash, who's been waiting to come to the podium.
Well, Board Member Bowen, I have some super exciting news, so I can start with that or I can end with it. You tell me how you'd like.
No. You're in the spotlight. Go ahead.
Well, we'll start off with the super exciting, because
Okay.
I've been looking forward to this evening for months now. You may have noticed on your seat and in the table when you came in a box of crayons. So part of Random Acts, for those who aren't familiar, we believe in spreading kindness one act at a time, no matter how big or how small. And part of what we do to encourage those acts of kindness is we have a theme for the month, or every 2 months. And right now, our theme is celebrating diversity and celebrating inclusion. And so I was trying to wrap my mind around, for the longest time, how was I going to celebrate this in my community? What was I going to do? And one day when I was looking at the news, I saw an ad for these crayons, and they're brand new to the market. But I having worked in school districts for a long time now, I wanted every student to be able to draw a picture of themselves and feel like they were represented. And these crayons, I felt, were one way to do that because they are representative of all the skin tones that there are in the community. And so as part of that, we have over 155 of these boxes that we want to donate to Title I schools. And hopefully we continue to grow that. And maybe next year we can do some more. But we wanted to say thank you for letting us be part of the schools and part of the community. And I can't wait to see some of the pictures that some of the kids draw. Really quickly, in addition, because Ms. Strickland mentioned it, in your folder you'll see a paperclip Valentine card.
Yes, we do.
You may remember that last year when I came, it was about this time, and you may remember that I mentioned the Valentine project that I do every year. And it's grown and grown. And last year we had around 450 Valentine cards that were made by students. And a couple of those students and I went to the Capitol to pass them out to staffers who work long hours and don't get a lot of recognition. We had the opportunity, those students got to actually meet and talk to legislators and ask questions about the process and how bills and laws work, and it was a really great experience. So I was really excited about this year, and COVID has hit us back a little bit, but I can tell you that as of last night, and I'm picking up all the cards tomorrow, but right now we have over 1,000 cards that students have made and contributed that we'll be handing out on Sunday around the community to service workers and random strangers that may not have a Valentine or feel like they're getting any love on Valentine's Day. So very excited about that. And just in addition, so something I'll end with this. You'll see in the folder there's a sheet, and it lists some of the projects that we've worked on with students over the past several years. And because of your support, and Dr. Gale and the superintendent, Random Acts, specifically because of Leon County Schools, Random Acts has created a program that they are launching worldwide. It's called the Junior Volunteer Program, and it is specifically aimed towards students, getting them involved in their community through kindness acts and helping them develop a love of volunteer and supporting their community. And we just wanted to thank you for your support with that and really let you know that we appreciate it. And we're trying to help students now that need service hours, even if they're digital and working from home. We can help them make that happen and help it come to reality. And the young lady at Rickards who recently started the nonprofit, I believe she is called the Period Project. Students that want to do something like that, they can apply for funding and we will give them the funding to start those types of community service projects. So we're just grateful that things are spreading in Tallahassee and in the community, and love and kindness is showing through.
Mm-hmm. This is wonderful, Misty. Let me just tell you that your work is so appreciated, both personally and professionally. And you know how there are people sometimes when they do a job, but they just don't seem like that should be the job that they are doing, and you start to make those kinds of judgments? Well, in my mind, having known you for just a little while, not only are you suited, but you do this well because I think that is who you are. And in the times that we live right now, to bring to us and take to our students this kind of information and share it throughout the community, I think it just speaks to not only what we need, but the random acts of kindness and just one person at a time doing things to say that we each are important and talking about diversity and inclusion. The time is so right for that. So I thank you for that. And I hope that you will be able to get more of these crayons. And certainly some of us, well, let me see how I shall put this. This is so important and so needed. And anything that we can help you do to continue to talk about diversity and inclusion and valuing each other for the achievements and the differences yet and the similarities. So do come back soon. Are there other comments, Mr. Jones?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
This takes me back some 40-plus years.
Oh, you only 40.
Well, I'm 50, but I haven't colored since I was 10.
Okay.
And
Gotcha.
the children of my generation
I have no idea. This
never
makes me cry.
saw their color in the crayon box. And you had to use all types of different means and methods and shading to quite get your color in the crayon box.
And you never did.
And so when I see this and the colors of the world and the descriptions of all the varied hues, we like to bandy the phrase about people of color, but we all have a color. We all have colors and shades and nuances to, and it shows, and it all shows how very, very different we are. But the fact that this company and then you, through your generosity, will share this will mean a whole lot to spurring the artistry and the creativity of our children here, armed with these different palettes made available through Crayola. So I mean, I don't know if you really catch how big this is, because this answers a generation. I mean, Crayola's been around forever. And this right here goes a long way to says how we feel about one another and and the beauty of our diversity. So thank you for sharing this with me most specifically. I might just color tonight.
I won't color tonight, but I will color my thoughts of the importance of this. And I'm much older than Mr. Jones. And so when he starts to talk about how there were no colors for him in his crayon box, can you just imagine? You probably can't. What there was for me. You follow me?
Yes, ma'am.
It wasn't even called Crayola back then. It was crayon. You know what I'm saying? And so to see how you have brought this
It's
around,
everything.
I mean, I'm almost speechless, and I'm tearing because
For real.
yes, and so I'm going to woosah and catch myself and be able to carry this meeting on. Don't stop doing this. These small things says that you think that people who don't look like you are important. You follow me?
Yes, ma'am.
And so for me, that's very important. So, okay, thank you so much. This is a wonderful meeting, and Mr. Jones and I are going to be in trouble because we have turned out to be the amen chorus, and there are a lot of folk who don't want to hear any amens and that kind of thing, but the truth just needs to be told. So
Amen.
thank you for this.
Amen.
Oh,
Amen.
Well, we thank you,
Thank you,
and
Misty.
Oh, my
and
God.
I will just leave on. Don't forget that Class Act is
Oh, yeah.
is an option
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
schools.
yeah. I mean,
Classes, schools that show kindness in the community can win, and we've upped the
Absolutely.
pot this year. It's now $8,000 that they'll win for their school if they
See?
show kindness to their community. So we encourage SGA and Civitans and Key Club and all these clubs and schools that have done projects to apply for that, because I would love nothing more than to present you that check. Thank you.
we'd love to receive it. Thank you. Oh, all right. 6.07, students working against tobacco. The SWAT annual report is going to be rescheduled until the meeting on the 23rd. So board members, if you would make a note of that. And now we move to 6.8. I think that's where we are. Student achievement. Oh, Superintendent Hannah is at the podium.
I am, Madam Chair. I don't know how you follow that.
I know.
I mean, Misty, I can't thank you enough.
Oh,
I see
my.
you every place in the community out of the goodness of your heart. You're not paid one
She's
penny,
just,
but every place I go, you're there.
True.
And you are just such a valued, cherished member of our community and our
Yes.
school system, and have been, like Ms. Bowen said, for a number of years. But this, it just is over the moon, so
We
thank
need
you.
lots of more Mistys.
I really mean that. So, Madam Chair, members of the board, at our last meeting, I did a very brief presentation on Pillar 2 of our strategic plan that we know is going to expire at the end of the current year, at the end of 2020, and we'll begin work on a new strategic plan late spring, early summer as we roll into the 21-22 school year. But I also made a commitment to do a brief presentation of the pillars that are located in that strategic plan. And Pillar 1 is student achievement and what we've accomplished as a school district over the last several years. And look, it's no surprise to you all, we've accomplished a lot. And although much of the dialogue over the last year now, it's hard to believe, on March 13th, it'll be 1 year since we went home. Much of the dialogue is centered around COVID and all that we've done to prepare for the safe reopening of our schools and giving families and students choices and options and meeting them where they are. But as far as our academic achievement, we should be very proud of our efforts over the last several years. So first, if we start at the very beginning, think about all that we have done, especially over the last 2 years in the area of pre-K and early childhood. We named a new director, Brooke Bruner, as early childhood director. We started partnering with the Early Learning Coalition and numerous private providers in our community and working with them on finding out what do they need, what things do they need, and can we potentially do to partner with them to help prepare our children for their K-12 experience. And it's been a wonderful relationship, and I have to give kudos to Ms. Bruner and her team. I personally have visited a number of our private providers in this area to see what work they are doing, and we will continue to move in this effort. We also created the VPK All Day program at our Title I schools for families who otherwise could not afford the wraparound services, and their children for years prior had just remained at home until they entered kindergarten. We know the achievement gap starts right there at kindergarten. And we unfortunately see that 50% of our students here in Leon County are not prepared for their K-12 experience. And that number is even more stark when we look at some of our Title I kindergarten numbers, kindergarten readiness numbers, where as low as 20 to 25% of those students are ready for kindergarten and their experience with us. So we've made a concerted effort to get in front of that, to face backwards and to try to partner again with these programs. I think all of us are very encouraged at the passing of the Children's Services Council and the opportunities that could help present to us as we partner with these organizations and these groups to see what we can continue to do in the area of early childhood education to get our students where they need to be when they come to us at a very young age. We also create an individual learning program, a tiered learning program for every single student. We do diagnostic testing at just about every grade level, especially the early years, to find out where children are and where they aren't and what interventions they need to get them reading on grade level and above. So we've purchased programs, iReady, Lexia, Achieve 3000, among others. Achieve 3000 is also used in much of our remediation, and we know that this summer we're going to have to really look long and hard at where our students are and to ensure that we get them to the next grade level, whether that's a third grader moving to fourth grade, a fifth grader moving to sixth grade, or especially an eighth grader moving into ninth grade. So we will be developing a plan this summer or this spring for the summer. Once we see the assessments of our children, we know there are going to be assessments given. We aren't sure exactly what that's going to look like, but we will use these assessments along with other progress monitoring tools that we're using now, that we use day in and day out, whether our students are physically in our classes or in digital academies, to find out what regression has taken place academically and what can we do to develop a program this summer, especially for those transition grades of the third grade retention, the fifth to sixth, the sixth to eighth, and the eighth to ninth. In addition, we created an early childhood council that's made up of folks from the Early Learning Coalition, private providers, and others. We have a talented and gifted program. One of the things that we heard, we spent a lot of time in those early years, especially on remediation and working towards getting kids prepared to take standardized assessments, where folks were, as I believe Jillian calls them, the bluebirds, sometimes kind of got left behind because we weren't focused as much on those really gifted and talented kids like Ms. Harris here, to make sure and to ensure that they had programs even at a young age that were motivating and stimulating to them to keep them engaged while they were in school. Moving in and transitioning from elementary to high school, and although we've infused many magnet programs, you saw we had Appalachia here earlier, into our elementary schools, but even more so in our middle schools. We have the new program was mentioned at R. Frank Nim's pre-law program. Elizabeth Cobb has an applied math and science program. Fairview, of course, has the IB Prepa program. Augusta Raw, Performing Arts. Swift Creek, we have a Bridge to an 8 program and a new agriculture program at Woodville. So allowing for choice, and as kids and families see options, they can then choose where their students' interests are and where they aren't, and then make those choice decisions that best fit the needs of their individual child. We've also pushed CTE programs down into our middle schools. The opposite end of the spectrum was that big push to increase career and technical opportunities for our children. We named a new director, Shelley Bell. We rebranded Lively Technical College to ensure that one size didn't fit all, and for those children who weren't destined to go on to Florida State or FAMU or University of Florida, that there was a path for them to find gainful employment and to provide for a family. And I'm very proud of the efforts we have made over the last several years on the total opposite end of the spectrum. And in the middle, with our high schools, our graduation rate this year, we announced last month, was 94.4%, fifth highest in the state of Florida. Last year it was 93%. We've been number 5 in the state of Florida, at least dating back to 2016. That's something that all of us should be very, very proud of. And the numbers with our African American students graduating from high school on time is 4 points above the state average, 91%. So these are things that we should certainly celebrate, but they're also things that we should build on. We shouldn't just say, oh, we're great, we're good, we don't need to do anything else. And as we continue to develop and increase opportunities for our children in all these areas, it's something that I'm really excited about. You know, I'll be more excited to do it when we have 100% of our students back in our schools. But in the meantime, we have been doing some amazing work. We've increased our graduation rate again by 2.6% by 2016. Our district acceleration rate is up to 55%. Our percentage of students taking college, that's AP, IB, or CTE courses, has increased from 55 to 61%. And we've increased program completers by 611 students. 611 students on average more today take these college-ready and career technical classes than they did three years ago. We've increased female enrollment in CTE classes by over 2.5%. Among approximately 45% of all enrollees in these college-ready and career technical classes, 45% are African American students, while 42% are Caucasian. And we've increased completers by 61% in 3 years, and that's because we've made a concerted effort to push kids into programs to what things they are interested in, to where school becomes relevant. I would like to give kudos to our current governor and the man that was running on the other side of the ticket. Both of them didn't have a lot of common, but two things they did have in common: early learning and the expansion of career technical programs. And so we see that continue to be a priority for our current governor in the area of early learning, and I know the First Lady in the state of Florida, that's also a priority of hers, along with mental health awareness and education, and then also career technical training for those students who are not destined for four-year schools. So there is certainly a lot to celebrate academically in what we've done. And then we have, we've seen, the last several years, how many Rickards High School graduates have left to go to Ivy League schools. I mean, just a number of those kids have walked out to go to Ivy League schools and have earned tens of millions of dollars of scholarships. We have, for a long time now, and this wasn't anything that I did or the person before me, but the overall health of the Leon County schools and the academic health of Leon County school system is alive and well. But again, it's not something that we will rest on. We will celebrate. We will take time to celebrate these accomplishments, but also take time to look for other opportunities to make sure that we are not leaving a child behind, especially now. And I can tell you, having gone into our classrooms and witnessed a lot of what's going on in a hybrid model and in the digital model and distance learning, I fear that a lot of academic regression has taken place. And so we're going to have to take a long, hard look in the mirror at where we are and where our children are, every single one of them, and develop an academic plan for each one of them as they slowly start to return. And it's going to be a heavy lift, but it's not unlike what we're seeing in other school districts across the state and those around the country. I saw a report yesterday evening when I was traveling home. There are millions and millions of students haven't been in school. Chicago schools have been shut down. Schools in New York have been shut down. They haven't been in school at all. And so although our situation may be dire, there are other pockets or other places in the country that may fare much worse. But I do know that, especially for our youngest of children, we have to do a good job of evaluating where they are this spring and developing plans for them moving forward, because that is the most critical time in a child's life. The most critical time in a child's life. And so this is going to be a challenge, a heavy lift, not to mention what we may be facing financially in order to do it. But we are committed to this work. We wouldn't be here this evening if we were not. But I think, again, when I think about our school system, and I've said this to many people many times, and it's not anything negative about charters or privates that try to come into to Leon County, but it's hard for a lot of them to survive, and the reason is simple, is because the traditional public school system in Leon County is alive and well. And I'm very proud of that. You should be very proud of that. And we will continue to try to recruit and retain the best teachers we possibly can, to compensate them, to give them fair compensation and a wage that leads them to a career path to want to stay in this profession for the years to come. But we are committed to that work, and again, waiting for the day that we can get all of our 30,000 students back in school. So with that, I'll take any questions or you may have on this one, then we'll shift to reopening.
Questions?
Good report. Like
Great.
to see it in writing and posted on our website?
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay.
Good.
Absolutely.
It will be posted.
Wonderful
Mr.
stuff.
Jones.
Thank you.
No?
No one else is saying anything?
You did a good job. He's done a good job.
Well, not. Okay. Mr.
Cheryl, go ahead.
We know you want to.
I do, because
Say that.
what I thought was most important about what you've described, and I hope that some of what you've captured, we will revisit as a part of our strategic plan. And particularly when we talk about the expansion of career and technical education programs, we've already started making great progress, most specifically with our director putting CTE going all the way down as early as elementary school programs with certificate programs, coding activities, and the like. What I would love to see us do, and I'd love for us to talk about this in the context of strategic planning, that we consider pre-CTE programs, much like we have pre-IB, that we'd be able to identify students and be able to do what you've talked about, provide that type of relevance that keeps our kids continually engaged, and that perhaps we might even have CTE curriculums that are companion curriculums found in our schools, where that young people, when they've identified interests as early as 9th grade, that there would be a curriculum designed most specifically for them, that they'll be able to then be able to dually enroll and then be able to graduate thoroughly prepared, but then also armed with their certification and their diploma at the time they finish. And I think the emphasis that we put on that is going to be the response our community desires when we talk about ending cyclical poverty. The way you end cyclical poverty is with a good paying job. And let me just say this in response to that, and I want to be political for just a moment. As jurisdictions convene themselves to have these conversations, chambers of commerce and the like, to have those conversations without our school district are full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. We are the solution to ending cyclical poverty in our community, and until the community embraces the important role that we as a district play in remedying that, then all their conversations are for naught. Their trips and their travels and their bus tours mean nothing. We have the solution, so we need them to be companions with us in this type of particular investment in our young people and their families. But thank you for your report, and I'm excited about everything that you described.
Now it's time for an amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
And along those lines, Mr. General, I will say that the wolves are still out there. There's a Senate Bill 48 sponsored by Senator Diaz that's looking to consolidate voucher programs to basically open up education savings accounts for families and expand vouchers to private schools. And so we have to continue the fight, to continue to advocate, because we know the end game. I've been saying this for years. You know, the end game is not with the children with special needs. The end game is not with children who come from poverty. The end game is, no matter what your level of income is, we're going to give you money and you can go to whatever school you want, public or private. And when that day comes, all right, then what we are left with to provide, and No Child Left Behind, to provide the needs for every single student in our school district is going to become very challenging, to say the least. And it's going to eliminate a lot of these programs that would make school relevant and make school where children want to attend. Because all we would then be able to offer is the basics of an education, the fundamentals. And no one seems to understand that. And it's not a turf war. It's not about, I put our schools up against any school in this community, public or private, charter or not. It's math. It's simple math. And when you start diluting the resources of a community and opening up schools and diverting money to private schools, then you start taking money away from our traditional schools, and we won't survive. We won't. And I don't know how else to say it or who else to say it to. I'll keep yelling for as long as I can yell, but we need help, and we need to solicit people. And again, it's not about what's mine is mine, and it's not about us, wanting a monopoly on the education industry. It's simple exercise in economics and in math. And God bless people who have wonderful ideas for creative educational programs if they want to open a charter school, but not at the expense of the public school system. God bless the people that want to open a private school, whether it's religious-based or not. But it should not be funded on the backs of our traditional public schools. And we have to keep fighting the fight.
Yes, we do.
Can I add to that fight just for a minute? A lot of times people think that if you put the word private in it, it somehow means it's better, and parents want what they think is going to be best for their child. And so as we spoke yesterday, it is just, we have to let people know what we have to offer, because the things that we offer in our schools are amazing, and you cannot get at most private schools. There are very few private schools that can offer the breadth, the width, the depth that we can. But somehow there's this magic about, I have a voucher and I can go to private school, even if they're not accredited, if the teachers aren't certified. And worst of all in this whole thing, beside the fact that taxpayer money is being used to fund these vouchers, is that there's no accountability. We have accountability every time somebody breathes, it feels like. Take this test, take that test, prove this, have this. But all this, taxpayer money is being diverted with no accountability, no tests, not much of anything. So the public really needs to understand that if they want to save our public schools, then we cannot divert all of our tax resources with no accountability to where it goes or what happens to it. So I just want to say amen to what you just said, and that we all join you in the fight to save our public schools.
I know you do, and we have a lot of other good people that do as well. And I look, there's not, at her high school, there's not a class or a program, anything she wants and or needs is there.
Yep.
But if we continue down this path, they won't be there. It just won't. It can't. It can't survive.
Right.
All right, so COVID updates. I'm going to start with, as we usually do, Dr. Cox and the folks from the Leon County Health Department to kind of update us on where our community is and where our school system is in relationship to positive cases and COVID.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ms. Superintendent, school board members. So my office has calmed down considerably the last 2 weeks, and that's a good thing. And I'm going to let Coco, y'all know Coco is works for Leon County Department of Health. She's a nurse. She's in charge of school health, and we talk daily, several times a day. Coco, your show.
Hi, good evening, everybody. So I want to go ahead and give our report. I was not available, but we had one of our other nurses, Susan Young, speak at the last school board meeting. So I wanted to go give you guys a little bit of the information of where we are with the current Leon County positivity rate, and be also echo where we were 2 weeks ago, because I think we're heading in a good direction. So we want to keep going that way. So currently, and this is the most recent report, this is coming from the Florida Department of Health dashboard, the report as of 2/8. Leon County positivity rate has decreased to 6.95% positivity. 2 weeks ago, this, or I guess on the 26th, was approximately that time, when Susan reported at the last school board meeting, our positivity rate was 8.01%. So we have continued to go down as a community overall in the last 2 weeks, which is encouraging. The other points that I wanted to kind of touch base on that I think are the most interesting to this audience is that we've seen some different information in our school age students. So I want to put this out here as well. So right now in Leon County, the highest positive rate is going to be in the 18 to 24-year-old age group. This is in Leon County, and this would be including our college students. The next highest is going to be the 25 to 34 years of age. So for the 18 to 24, the positivity rate is 28.1%. For the 25 to 34 years, it's 19.7%. Of our school age students, so we're saying an average 5 to 17-year-olds, and this is as of the 2/8 report, there's the 3.46 positivity of our students age 5 to 17 ages, years of age. So I think the other thing that I wanted to touch base on here is that the wait time for a positive test to drop into the state database has decreased as well. So that we're getting a quicker turnaround time, 1.65 days average from the test date to the state reporting time, dropping into our state database. We are at the Department of Health working with the school district, and so we do a lot of self-reporting. So many times when the school age students drop in, the 5 to 7-year-olds, every morning we get a report of that. I would say 90% of the students we already know about because of the self-reporting that is going on from parents and the schools reporting this to our Leon School COVID inbox. We're kind of getting a jump start on it, which has been great. So, hopefully that will continue and we'll continue to have some good numbers here as well as we move forward.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Scott Mazer indicated there's a new 90-day rule and said it was coming from the health department. I just wanted to understand what that was.
Sure, I can speak to that. I don't know that it's new. Basically, the CDC has indicated that if someone has a positive test, So if they have a confirmed positive test, they have a 90-day immunity. The only way we would know for sure is if, again, someone has had a positive test that we can check in the state database. There might have been people that were in a household that didn't test, but they had symptoms. That can be considered a presumed positive. But for the school district folks and the students, we are looking in the state database to see if they have a confirmed positive. So given CDC guidance, if someone has tested positive, we check to see in the past if it's been within 90 days. If it's been within 90 days, we follow that CDC guidance that indicates they have an immunity. So if they are exposed to another positive case, they do have immunity against COVID for that 90 days. We refer to it as a golden ticket. Basically, that allows them not to quarantine if they are exposed to a positive case. But we double check those dates and make sure that it is within the 90-day time period.
Okay, thank you.
So Coco, even though they have a golden ticket, can they still be a carrier? Geez, a character. They're a character, all right. Can they still be a carrier if they're
So
exposed?
CDC has not addressed that. So basically, if someone has had a positive test, they have still stated that the 90-day immunity stands.
Okay.
There's
all
a
right.
lot of more information that's going to be coming out, and I anticipate, with the vaccines rolling out as well, there'll be more information because we have a lot of questions about that. But again, that's what we know right now is that if someone has had it for 90 days, they have the,
Right.
according to CDC guidance, they have the immunity clause.
Right. I am very encouraged to see today, even now that our local Publix supermarkets are going to be offering vaccinations, Walmart, Sam's Club. So I think, we're going to continue to see, hopefully, this thing, more momentum, more vaccines given to our community where we can get our teachers up in line sooner rather than later.
Is there a date, Mr. Superintendent, by which you think that might be happening for the community, or Coco at Publix or Walmart?
Is there any anticipated date when they'll move off phase one of 65 and above and healthcare workers, or no, not really?
We have not been given that information. Again, that's coming from the governor's office. So we are waiting, and as soon as we hear, we will certainly pass that on to you all, because I know a lot of people are very excited and hopeful for that time.
Absolutely. Okay, thanks.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
Coco,
Ms. Strickland.
can I ask a question about I think a few weeks ago, correct me if I'm wrong, the window, if you tested positive to stay home, went from 14 down to 10 days. Is that correct?
So CDC did change their guidance, and I believe it was, and Dr. Cox, you might be able to tell me exactly when the date was. I believe it was in December that the school board decided to stick with the original guidance in an abundance of caution. You all certainly, as a private business, can take a look at that. The latest guidance, if you decide you want to pursue that, it would shorten quarantine times and isolation times, depending on if people were exposed or had a positive case. You could certainly, look at that as a school board and a private business.
Alan, have we discussed, is there any urge
Yes,
to look at that?
So the state and the nation started to realize that schools were not the spreader events as was feared. And one thing they did is the CDC dropped the quarantine. They basically cut it in half, 10 days and then the 14 to 7. So basically what they said is that you can test a child on the 7th day. And then if they are negative, they can return to school. But we decided, we presented it to the leadership team, to the superintendent, is that things have worked well for us in the district. We have are not aware of any school spread during the school day. We've had stuff after hours and everything. And so we decided to remain on the conservative end and just remain with our 10 or 14 days based on the circumstance. And that's where we are.
Can you clarify that?
Coco, you want to jump in on that too? The CDC said we can cut the quarantine days in half, but we decided not to do that. We decided to stay with what we've been doing all year, which if a student tests positive, then it's usually 10 days after that because they're already tested positive. If they're symptomatic or they're an exposure case, it's 14 days. And that's kind of that's those quarantine deadline timelines that we look at.
So we're at a 10-day. If you have a positive test, you're a 10-day.
Yes.
If you're exposed and an unknown, you can have 2 negatives within 7 days and go back. Is that correct?
No, well, that's not what we've been following. So basically what they do is they're looking at the PCR test and they say after the 6th day, someone that's been exposed can test. And if they get a negative test, they can still be mindful. They can get off their quarantine, but still be mindful for symptoms, and being aware if anything changes, because it can still be 2 to 14 days post the exposure that someone can test positive. And we are still seeing that. The CDC made that guidance, I guess, to give businesses the option to shorten the quarantine time for people that had been exposed or had tested positive based on studies. But we are still seeing that it could happen 2 to 14 days. And that was my understanding, that's why the team decided to stick with this in an abundance of caution at this time.
Ms. Wood?
Yes. One thing I remember in that discussion was that you could shorten the time, but you had to absolutely guarantee 6 feet of distance.
Correct.
And mask.
We decided that we just really can't do that at our schools in every single classroom and have to keep track of one group of students who are quarantined for half the time, one group that's quarantined for another time. It just didn't seem practical, and I believe that's why you all recommended that we stick with our original rules.
And
Am I correct
we
on that?
discussed the PCR test as well. Remember that, Coco, that, have
Some could afford it, some could, right. Some could afford it, some couldn't afford
everybody had
it.
access to it. So we were going to end up with a have and have-nots.
Right.
And so that time we said, everything's worked well for us in this district. Why don't we probably just stay with what we've been doing?
And that is where we are right now. We're staying where we were. We're not going with the new findings. That's what I'm hearing, and others are hearing the same. Is that right, Dr. Cox?
That's correct.
Okay.
Just like we were with essential workers. I mean, by the letter of the law, essential workers, if they stay asymptomatic, can return immediately. But we made a decision that we were going to hold them out 72 hours, give them a PCR test. If the test was negative, then they could come back. So we've taken another layer on top of basically what is what other organizations may or may not be doing. I don't know. I just know what we're doing.
Okay. All right.
I had some other questions for Dr. Cox if we're finished with COVID. Are we finished with that report?
Further discussion on that?
Dr. Cox, you or Coco, you have anything else to add, or?
Not in regards to COVID.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ms. Wood.
Thank you, Coco.
Dr. Cox, I think you were in on the discussion yesterday. We were talking about something that's sort of unknown to people, and they're calling it period poverty. And it has to do with young women not having access to feminine hygiene products. Sometimes, at least the data says that 1 in 5 girls miss school to the lack of those products. And I know you've done some research, because we spoke earlier about what our current practices in the school, so I'd just like you to give us an update on that. And I've also spoken to our school board member, and she is going to go back with her other SDAC members and talk about this and perhaps come back with some recommendations to us of how we can really work on this issue that sort of a hidden issue, but I think it's an important one, and we need to do all that we can to make sure that every student is at school and every girl feels comfortable and safe and doesn't miss school because they don't have access to hygiene products.
Right. So let me tell you, it's a real live issue, okay? And the article's period poverty, and there was an article written by that title. And basically, it's menstrual cycle hygiene, and more importantly, and just as important as education. I didn't realize this, but food stamps don't qualify for some of these products. And so let me explain what has been going on in this district for quite a while, and then tell you, if you don't, some of the adjustments that I propose we make in this area, okay? We have a program called, it's from Procter & Gamble. It's called the Always Changing Program. It's been around for many, many, many years. When I was the supervisor of health and physical education in the early 90s, we had it then. And it's puberty education. And we started in about third or fourth grade. Most places was fourth grade. And it goes fourth, fifth, into sixth. And then usually we had seventh grade health back in those days. And we continue with our human growth and development education at the secondary level. But what this program is, it's puberty-based education. We'd separate the boys and girls, and we'd have teachers or nurses or doctors come in, and they talk to the girls about why their bodies are changing, what they're going through. They would go over the products, and then we would have doctors or such come in and talk to the boys. At that time, I actually went out to the schools, and I did hundreds of those classes to the boys, why their bodies are changing and everything. So Procter & Gamble, the curriculum is free. It's still free to this day. They've updated it with nice videos and stuff. They used to send us samples. And I would just simply tell them, when I was in that position before, how many products we want, how many, the boys would get deodorant, the girls would get sanitary pads, how much to send, and they would send that stuff. And we would have it. We would have, the schools would have, the elementary schools, middle schools would have plenty of that product, but they no longer do that, and they say that now on their site that they no longer give those products out, and I don't actually know why, but they don't. So it is an issue. So at the secondary level, and Roseanne Woods, you can attest to this, I've called just about all the secondary principals today. We usually would keep feminine hygiene products in guidance, down there in the clinics. A lot of places kept it in physical education. I know I did that when I was a principal of Childs. And so we've had the products that the students could ask for upon request. But we need to probably pep that up a little bit. So I called Eric Clark today, and I told him about this and about the issue that we face with this, especially with our impoverished students. And it fits right well with our foundation and with their purpose and with their mission. So we're going to need to continue with our human growth and development, aka sex education, or human growth and development at the secondary levels and at elementary. And but then I'm going to get him involved in purchasing. Now, believe it or not, our warehouse used to carry these products, and you could order them from the school. We don't have them there anymore. The warehouse downsized. So that's a plan going forward to get these products back in our schools. And then I'll have an advisor group to work on what's a method to advertise that out.
Okay, well, that's something, that's great, and but we have a long way to go, it sounds like to me, and I'm hoping that, I see Arva shaking her head, so would you like to say something about it?
Yes, ma'am. From personal experience, I know that like waddling down to the office or like the nurse's room to get menstrual products is like not the best, and I think maybe incorporating them into the restrooms would be a good idea. I think it's one of these things that like,
Asha, speak into your microphone a little bit more, please. Thank you.
sorry.
That's okay.
I think it's one of those things that doesn't have any cons but has a lot of pros. And it's not really talked about at school because it has such a bad stigma around it. But at the end of the day, it's like a human thing. And 50% of the people I go to school with suffer or have to face it every day and stuff like that. So I think this is a really important subject.
Okay.
Well, I just want to say I look forward to the students coming back with some recommendations, and I did speak to Eric Clark today from the foundation, and some of you may remember that when I finished my campaign early, I had some money that was left over, and we originally committed it to internet access, but I spoke to him today, and they still have some money in that category, so I'm going to go ahead and ask him to divert $5,000 of that to this cause, to start buying some products for our girls at the schools, and maybe y'all can use some of that money as a test pilot on machines in bathrooms, and let's see how we can make this happen. I think it's very important. It's not an easy thing to discuss, but it's a very important thing to discuss and get solutions to, so I look forward to working with the students on this.
Great. And you also mentioned yesterday, perhaps Ms. Strickland did, that there was a need as well at the elementary school level. So
Right.
we're talking about beyond high school, elementary, middle, and high school students because.
And you mentioned the Junior League.
I think,
And there may
yes.
be some other service organizations that would
Right.
like to help with this too. So I think
Absolutely.
in Tallahassee, when we describe a
Right.
problem, we can usually solve it. So I'm looking toward lots of people
Great.
that can help solve this issue.
All right. Further comments about this? Good catch, Ms. Wood. Thank you, Asha.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Jones.
I think this is just one of the most amazing conversations I've enjoyed since I've been elected. Because, I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but it's that being able to find those types of, identifying those types of problems and then finding those types of solutions to meet the needs of our children, I think is why we all ran. That we could make this type of difference, and in such a tangible and meaningful way, and then through conversation be able to be enlightened about a problem that I know many people may have been blithely unaware of, and I'm just amazed at what I just witnessed here. It's just really, really, this is good governance, and so thank you for this.
Yeah.
Effort, and I think it can be something that I know we're not permitted to talk offline, but I do feel empowered to do my part to enlist persons who can support this important effort as well.
That's great. And I meant to mention Amaya Wayman, who is a student at Rickards, who made this her project and sort of made me aware of the need for this. So she is excited about moving this forward to a bigger level. She raised money this summer, and she delivered products to PACE School for Girls and Oasis and the Boys and Girls Club. And so now to bring it to the schools and see what we can do to improve at schools, I just want to give a shout out to Amaya and look forward to continue working with her and all of our great students.
And I am very
kids are
excited
amazing.
that Miss Wood is going to take the lead on this project. That makes me
You don't want to take the lead on this?
well, because but to Arsha's point, really, and I'm kind of over it now. I'm 57 years old, but as even a young married male, it's awkward. It's it's awkward. So imagine for a high school kid or even elementary age or middle. I mean, so yes, this isn't something we need to address because the last thing we want is our young ladies feeling uncomfortable, awkward, and then suffering because of our neglect and lack of resources to help. So,
And to get us back where we once were in this county, because I think I remember a time, Dr. Cox, that we did have, I think you mentioned this, a supply that was out there, but times have changed and the need is greater, and to get back there for whatever, and when you've been around a little while, you kind of remember we did that some time ago and it worked when you all were principals, and so great. We look forward to taking care of this and a discussion. That's why we're a great board and a great superintendent that we
so
are.
Dr. Cox, you have anything else?
Nope.
Okay, I was just going to add, I know the issue of substitute teachers came up in our conversations. We have had a problem ascertaining a proper number of subs to cover our teachers who are either out because of illness, out because of quarantine, or otherwise absent from school. We are working hard with our HR department, with Mr. Shively, and I believe Mr. Shively's on this call. Brett, do you want to jump in to tell the board what we were doing in the area of substitute teachers to try to ensure that all of our schools have subs?
Sure. How's everyone doing? Mr. Superintendent, school board members, thank you for letting me speak today. We met as a leadership team last week to discuss some of the strategies to improve sub access within our schools. One of the main things that came to light was creating a process whereby we could establish dedicated subs, at least a base number of dedicated subs at each school. So we went out and communicated with the schools to determine how many of those schools had subs that they had access to, that they could speak to determine, if they would be available on a consistent basis, should we have the need. Most schools had a number of dedicated subs that they could tap into. So we got a list of those people. The schools that didn't have those dedicated subs, We then reached out to our sub list to identify dedicated subs. Right now, we're starting with, as I said, with 2 dedicated subs per school. However, at schools that use more dedicated subs than that on a consistent basis, we've indicated that they're more than capable of adding additional numbers to their total. We've also gone out in order to incentivize those subs to come to certain schools that are out there that may not be as desirable from the subs perspective, whether it's across town or whatever. We've assured each sub 7.5 hours a day, so that in the past they may have only been assured 2 hours or 3 hours in the day. Now we've said, okay, if you come to work, you'll get the full day, 7.5 hours. So that's one thing that has helped incentivize those individuals to take these jobs at the schools. We've also reamped or re-upped on our advertisement for subs. We recently posted a sub advertisement on PATS and on Indeed.com that has garnered approximately 81 new applications for our sub positions, and we're busy interviewing those folks and getting those folks on board as soon as possible. One of the other things that we did was we went through, and when we started this process, we evaluated how many subs we had, and our list was comprised of more than 500 subs. But one of the things that we found was that nearly 200 of those subs weren't subbing on a regular basis. And so we went through and we culled that stack and really decided, okay, who hasn't taken a job with us in a number of years or months, and we've eliminated those that haven't been taking jobs. So we have a more realistic list for schools to pull from. So all told, right now we have a list of about 278 subs that are active. We've got 81 that are in process, and we're adding them every day. So it's still a challenge that we're tackling, but I think we've got a good plan for it.
Okay. Well, quick question. On those subs that you mentioned were not taking jobs with us, why was that? Did they not get called, or what does that mean? Mm-hmm.
They're in our system, so they get calls. They just, for whatever reason, and there's many reasons, primary among them right now is the pandemic. Many of our subs are former teachers, maybe they're retired teachers who are older in age, and they don't want to be exposed, for obvious reasons, and they've made a conscious decision not to sub at this time, that have indicated to us as we've spoken to them on the phone that as the pandemic passes, they definitely would love to come back, but they just don't feel comfortable right now.
Okay. Who is he? He is the HR Human Resources Director.
That's Mr. Shively.
Brett Shively is the Human Resources Director.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Jones?
and I don't know if Mr. Shively or Alan Cox answers this question. If a teacher has to quarantine, they're not ill, but they're quarantined because they've been exposed, are they still compensated, or are they utilizing their leave?
You going to speak, Brett, to the COVID leave, or you want me to answer that one?
Whatever you desire. They are eligible for a one-time 80 hours worth of COVID leave that we pay them. But once they've utilized that 80 hours, they no longer have paid leave and would be responsible to take their own personal leave.
The reason I ask this question, because this takes me back to conversations that school board member Rasmussen and I have continued to have regarding a remote working policy. And I think that as we talk about how we can continue to enlist our own capable and existing workforce to be able to meet what we know are the workforce crises that the pandemic provides our district, we've talked about this since we had that task force.
I thought we were able to.
We are going to speak to it.
Yeah, district staff have been working through a draft. A good portion of the fall were spent going over revisions to the draft. My understanding is that Ms. McAllister has spoken with Dr. Gale recently about finalizing that, so it will be coming to you all hopefully either at the next meeting or the meeting after that. So it is
All
in
right.
process.
I'm sorry, but I thought we were also allowing teachers who are in quarantine but who are not sick to teach from home.
So, right, so if I can add to what Mr. Shively
They
said,
are.
that yes, they are allowed to take their up to 80 hours, and we extended that time. It was due to expire the first year. We've extended that. In addition, if teachers are able to teach remotely from home, the principals are allowing for that as well.
They don't have to
Period.
take leave, right?
Then that clarifies for me beyond the workforce, the remote working policy. If those
It solves the immediate problem, yeah.
But that if they're allowed to still be engaged, then great. Thank you for clarifying. I appreciate that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Jones, for raising the issue again and the clarification from Ms. McKinney-Williams. I'm glad to know that it's on its way. Thank you.
Mr. Superintendent, further?
That's it, unless you have any further questions.
Anyone
I just
question?
wanted to say one more thing about the subs,
Go ahead.
and I can see that you've gone a direction that's probably going to give some relief to schools, but I still would like to hear some sort of recommendations from a principals group about having a number to call at the district to help, because sometimes it's just a scramble. 2 subs aren't enough. You call the whole list, nobody's available, and I just think it would be really good if we had like an emergency sub squad that could go anytime needed, because what we don't want, and I know it happens, is for classes to be combined because they couldn't get enough subs.
Is
And-
that not what, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr.
Yeah, I mean,
was saying.
you know, to have 2 ones that are dedicated to your school is great. That's
Uh-huh.
a big improvement, I think. But I just feel we still have some more work to do, and to really have a frank conversation with the principals about what would help them. I know I've had a few conversations, and they were like, oh gosh, if we could just have an emergency number to call when we're just scrambling and having to put kids in, you know, gymnasiums because we can't cover our kids. We just, and especially during COVID times, we just don't want classes to be combining because they don't have a sub.
Madam Chair,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess the superintendent and his team will, because I am not entirely aware how this works. Do subs identify themselves as available on a daily basis in the morning or the day before? Is that how they are selected?
So we assume that if they're on the substitute list, and I think that's why there was some culling done, unless they've expressed otherwise, that they are available daily. Now, these 2 dedicated subs at each school, and some schools have more than 2, especially the high schools, that will be called in as needed, but it may be every day or every other day. It just depends. So every day, those 2 individuals will go to the principal. Do you need me tomorrow? Yes, I need you tomorrow. Or no, I don't need you tomorrow. So those at least is to start, a step in the right direction, because to Ms. Wood's point, we don't want combining classes and things like that. And we also have an MOU with LESPA to help. But to her point, she's asking for a district number. The bat signal goes out that we're in trouble today.
But I guess for me, the process, and this will be, you can answer this for me most simply. So if I have 270 persons available who are on the list, do I call everyone on that list until someone says they're ready, available?
Ray, you want to speak to ASOP and how it works?
Sure. We have an automated system that we basically enter all of the subs in, and basically what happens is the school calls and lets the system know that they need a sub, and then the system automatically calls everyone on the list. Right, as the vacancy becomes open, or they are aware of the vacancy, it just starts calling the folks, and people can then, answer the call and accept the assignment automated.
So in those schools.
One other thing to add, I'm sorry to say, is that while we don't have a sub squad, if you will, we do have people in HR who assist with finding subs as needed. So if there's a principal who needs subs and they're not able to find anyone through their staff, Melanie Garrison and her staff in HR, they are constantly calling subs and helping principals to identify folks to help when necessary.
Okay, perhaps you just answered the question that I was about to ask. For those sites where there is a larger need for subs, do those sites get more than the 2 dedicated subs, and so that classes don't have to be combined and such?
Yes, ma'am. Sure. So what we said was, we wanted the principals to take a look at their average. So if they're averaging, 4 or 5 subs, then by all means, they can go out there and they can line up
they go
more
out there.
dedicated subs, and we would help them with that. But we wanted to start and ensure that everyone had a base level, and then from there they would look at what they're averaging.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Further questions, comments? Good stuff,
Thank you.
Mr. Superintendent.
Thank
Thank you all. Thank you. Moving right along, item 7, items of consent. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move acceptance.
Move acceptance, second by
Rasmussen.
who?
Rasmussen.
Rasmussen, yes. Questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposes the same. It passes unanimously. Item 18, construction. Is there someone who will
I move
speak into that?
acceptance.
Not, okay. It's been
Second.
moved by Jones, second by Woods. Question? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I need to abstain from item 18
Yes,
due
you do.
to any appearance of a conflict with my employer.
Yes, ma'am. So noted.
An upcoming item as well.
All right, and the upcoming item as well. All right, that takes care of 18.01. We're at 18.02. Mr. Albritton, I see you.
You're at 19.
I'm at where?
1901.
Excuse me, 1901. Mr. Albritton, thank you.
This is the other item I need to abstain from, 1901, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Did we finish?
Good
18?
evening, Board, Chair, Superintendent.
I think so.
Item
Good evening.
1901 is Superintendent recommends approval of RAM Construction and Development, LLC, guaranteed maximum price, contract for construction manager at risk for RFQ 464 2021, construction manager at risk for J. Michael Conley, school-wide exterior plaster replacement.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, moved by Rasmussen, second by Jones. Questions? Hearing none, all in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Hold up. Did
Madam
you,
Chair, I was,
Where are we? What's the problem?
I'm not
moved by Rasmussen.
Ms. Wood, did
Yeah.
you move?
Moved by Wood.
Moved by Wood, second
Second,
by
whoever.
Jones. No, second by Stripling.
That's fine.
Yes.
Under these masks, we are just making melodious sounds, and it's hard to tell.
Yes.
Okay.
Rasmussen abstained.
Rasmussen abstains for the record. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposes the same. It carries unanimously. All right, did I skip one of these items?
No, you're at 19.02.
We're at 19.02. Moving right along in 19.02. Dr. Gale will talk about the calendar.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening again, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, Superintendent, and all board members. As you know, with item 1902, the 21-22, 22-23 calendar is being placed before you. It has come before DAC and has been adopted by DAC. The main thing with this calendar, we have a week for teachers, students, and some staff members during the week of Thanksgiving. There is no early release days in December. There will be early release days in May, and with both of these calendars, students as well as teachers are released before Memorial Day. That is, if we don't have to do any adjustments as we did last year.
All right. We had the discussion yesterday, and we felt fairly certain that this is what we were going to go with, and Ms. Wells also mentioned this today. I would ask, do you recall, Dr. Gale, the percentage of individuals
Yes, ma'am.
voting for this calendar? Was it?
Yes, ma'am. Thank
What was
you.
that,
And I'm
please?
sorry I didn't say that
That's
today.
okay.
There were over 4,400 votes. 81.6% of the people who voted, which included parents, students, teachers, school and district-based administrators, as well as community leaders or community members. 81.6% chose option 2. And so that was the overwhelming choice.
All right, that's pretty
Move
important.
approval.
Move approval, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Stripling. Questions?
Just one question.
Questions, sir?
That's the entire week of the 22nd. Schools will be closed.
The entire, well, no, students, teachers, and some staff members. Some of us who are also staff members, we're still at work. The district office is open that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The schools may be closed, or they may not. Administrators may be there working, and they may elect to close the school to the public.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
You've heard the vote. Question? Seeing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposes the same. It passes unanimously.
If I may also, thank you, Dr. Gale, for your hard work and on getting the calendar approved for the next 2 years. And I love this calendar, to be honest with you. I think this provides for right now 178 day school year, which also gives then our paras and non-instructional people a chance to come in 2 days in advance to work with their teachers to get ready.
Absolutely.
It extends pre-planning from 5 days to 7 days. The feedback I've gotten, other than from one or two who we're trying to figure out childcare over Thanksgiving, it's been very positive.
Yes, sir.
Very positive. So
I think the other positive thing is to have 2 years. That's new with your administration. I think that's great.
we don't have to go through this exercise every year.
True.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Gale, and others who worked on this. 19.3, safety. Mr. Hunkier is approaching the podium. As they say in the courts, what say ye, sir?
Good evening, Mr. Superintendent, Madam Chair, and school board members. Yesterday afternoon, I had the pleasure of briefing you in our agenda review on the topic of safe school officers. As you're aware, also on January 27th, we had a closed executive session related to safety with the school board members, where I briefed you on this topic and some plans for the future. I've also had individual conversations with you and answered your questions and took your input. The largest expense related to the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act is making sure that we maintained an officer at each school site. And full disclosure, this year has been really challenging related to that. We identified some issues in early October. With some help from other local law enforcement agencies, we've been able to meet the statute. But what I bring before you is to modify our plans for the future to make sure that we have backfill. When the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act was passed in 2018, districts all over the state began planning and came up with different models to make sure that they met the law, the statute. This board, at the time, with a lot of meetings and a lot of review, we decided that our model was to put a police officer on every campus. I'm proud to say that we've been able to do that for the last 2 years, but I can tell you that that has been a strain. The previous discussion related to substitute teachers is also occurring as it relates to police officers on our campus. The Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act, you can meet the statute in 3 ways. You can have a school resource officer or deputy. You can have what's called a safe school officer, which would be like an off-duty law enforcement officer, which is what we currently do in our 23 elementary schools. Or you can implement a guardian program. The first evolution of the guardian program, most of the districts that took part in that were arming actual staff members that had different job descriptions. For example, a coach or administrator or teacher. This board was very clear, the superintendent was clear, myself, that we did not have any interest in implementing a guardian program that armed teachers, administrators, or others that were not law enforcement officers. The chair of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Commission, Sheriff Gutierrez out of Pinellas County, he took that same stance following MSD. I can tell you that Pinellas County is a model that we've been looking at recently because they have implemented a guardian program, as I will describe here shortly. Of the 67 districts, 43 districts have implemented a form of a guardian initiative. The state statute provides funding and lays out the extreme amount of training and the vetting of individuals that would meet qualifications to become guardian individuals. I will tell you that this program is heavily audited each year, as you're aware. This is just but one portion of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act. It has major mental health components that Dr. Cox's office works in conjunction with my office, threat assessment, surveys, physical upgrades to security, data reports, and on and on. So I have the opportunity to brief you in the sunshine every year when we submit our Florida Safe School Assessment Tool, which is a comprehensive assessment of every single school campus. I provide a briefing with the following year's recommendations. This gentleman here, Jimmy Williams, coordinator in my office, every day from 7 in the morning till about 9:30 in the morning is a pretty hectic time making sure that every one of our schools has an officer on campus. COVID has presented many challenges. You've probably read somewhat nationwide that there are shortages in law enforcement officers. So we were looking to strengthen our program. It took a lot of meetings with the superintendent. We weren't always on the same page. I think he has been able to review all the information at hand, and what we're proposing, we believe, is a very professional alternative that will give us the backfill capability and not leave us vulnerable to a 100% compliance with the statute. And that statute is 1006.12. I had a lot of conversations with our board attorney, and she has guided us in this manner. So the first item before you is a proposal to add language to provide the district the opportunity to use guardians, and that would make us have to change policy 8407 related to safe school officers. And I'll bring up the second one.
Can you talk about the training that's involved?
Yeah.
Yes. So individuals that we have in mind, recently retired law enforcement, first responders, prior military, they have to have a clean background, pass a level 2 clearance. They have to pass a psychological examination. They have to pass initial and regular drug screens. They have to pass 144 hours and then receive regular ongoing training. So it is not, it is a heavy lift. Our model proposes to identify contractors. The reason I say that is in 2019, with the second evolution of the Stoneman-Douglas Act, that's Senate Bill 7030, that allows private security companies to use their G-license individuals and present them for guardian training certification from a local sheriff's office.
I'm just wondering, and we discussed this, I guess, at length yesterday to include the training and concerns, but have you found, how do you decide about the suitability of officers working in our school sites and the difference that may cause us to have when they've worked in the regular community?
So what I'll say is we really value our 40-year contract that we have with the Leon County Sheriff's Office and our school resource deputy program. That's primarily in our secondary schools and our special sites. Over the last several years, even before Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, we were hiring officers and rotating different officers in and out of our elementary schools.
Okay.
So to your question, finding the right fit or the right individual, some of the components in our program gives us the flexibility to move someone if they're not a fit.
Good.
That's a very rare instance, and we openly speak to our principals daily, and we try to address problems before they get too big. You may have somebody that's new and hasn't been familiar with schools. We do provide them training about our district, but it's pretty rare that we have an issue. But the idea that using multiple different individuals gives you the flexibility to move them around.
Good answer. And finally, have you found from your work with the schools that some or most of the schools would request the same individual, consistently? We want Officer Hunkier with us every day.
So
he is ours.
So the program has kind of normed by itself. with using the off-duty individuals that we've had. So you'll have, for example, like 4 or 5 different officers that have sort of adopted a school. It may be where they went to school. It may be in the neighborhood where they live. It may be within a cadre of individuals that they work with, so that they can kind of help with scheduling. Ideally, we just want to make sure that we have a very fluid system to where we're not left without an officer there. I will tell you that in the last 12 months, the Department of Education has brought on board compliance individuals who make unannounced visits to our sites and sites all over the state for compliance. So we have met with them, and in full disclosure, we've explained the challenges that we have received. And they ask us, are you using the full extent of the statute that's available? So that's why we bring this matter to the board today.
Okay. Thank you. Further questions, concerns? Thank you for your hard work and your attention to the details and the research that you shared with us that it was necessary for you to do to get us to this point, John. We really appreciate that. All right. If there's no further questions, we're ready to vote on this.
We have approval.
We need who moved it, please? Ms. Strickland moved it. Who seconded?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Ms. Wood. That helps Ms. Coffey out. Questions? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposes? None. Thank you all. Thank you. And
One more.
we appreciate it. Is there
The next
more?
item. He has the
The
next
next item, yes.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, discussion. No, you have something you want to say to us about this item, don't you?
Madam Chair, I pretty
Yes.
much blended them together, and I apologize, but they are the same item.
Great.
They should have been in the reverse order, and I apologize for that, but my explanation carries for both.
All right, then there was a second and approval. Jones, Rasmussen. Questions? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Thank you,
Thank you,
Chief
Board.
Honkier. Information items are noted so that you can see them. There are no reports. Superintendent's comments.
Briefly, Madam Chair, we have with this wonderful calendar of ours, President's Day off on Monday, February the 15th.
Oh.
So I'm sure all of our teachers are excited about. And not to mention all of our parents. Also, the annual Tallahassee Community College 2021 Cherry Hall Alexander African American calendar is out, and 6 of the 12 months are represented by those folks that have been affiliated with our public school system.
Wonderful.
Even good friend of mine, Eugene Lamb, who worked with our school system for a number of years. I remember I was a little boy at Winthrop Park, and he ran for the Parks and Recreation program. I have a former student of mine, student athlete that I coached at Godby, Dexter Hogan from Bond. We have our Talithia Edwards, who is head of our TAC committee, Denard Shepard, Mayoshi Walker Brinson from Bond, and then Dr. Deborah Barnes from James S. Rickards High School. So congratulations to everyone that's on this calendar, especially to those that are affiliated with our public school system. It's quite an honor.
Ditto, ditto. Good. All right. Continuing concerns from school board members. Continuing concerns. Going once, that's it. New issues from school board members.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Jones.
Yesterday's conversation, and I promise, School Board Member Strickland, I want to get you to the Bachelorette or the Bachelor or whatever our favorite TV show is.
I've lost interest.
You've lost interest.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
But our
Take your time.
conversation yesterday, when we talked about school choice, first of all, I'd like to say this publicly. Yesterday's agenda review meeting was expertly managed by our assistant superintendent, Dr. Michelle Gale. In that conversation yesterday, relative to school choice, brought to my interests how we communicate with the varied populations and constituencies found that are served by our district, parents most specifically. I recall a time when, as a young person who was just interested in the work of the school board, I enjoyed being able to go to the particular channel that was provided on my cable network where I knew that the school board meeting was televised. I think when we are very much aware of the digital divide. Part of the reason we know that we're aware of the digital divide because we made the purposeful investment in Chromebooks to ensure that there was no disparity between one child and the other. Different populations get their news in different ways. And I would like for us, as a new concern of mine, this district and the volume of work that we do and the opportunity that is afforded the district with its own dedicated public access channel is very, very important. And I'd like for us to revisit that. I know that we are still holding on to the call letters or something of that sort, but I do know that it's something, when I think about when we're communicating the work that we're talking about, the activities that are going on in our schools, and how we can communicate most directly with our populations, that channel is a resource that we can have at our disposal. So I'd like to find out, once again, I keep referring back to when we go into our strategic planning session, I'd love for us to talk more about how we are engaging with our populations in that way, because I don't want, we talk about no child left behind. Well, I don't want any of our parents left behind either. And I think every tool that we can have in our arrow that we can have in our quiver and at our disposal, we need to take advantage of. And I'd like for the broadcast channel to be something that we might revisit and perhaps in the next school year, because I think it's a valuable tool, and all of our families are not being do not gain, all families and all populations do not get their news from the same sources. And I think that channel is a fantastic source of information for a great number of our parents who we want to make certain that they are engaged. Imagine and I don't want to belabor the point. Everybody gets the obvious reason why it works. So I'd just like for us to revisit that conversation. That's my new concern.
Thank you, Mr. Jones, but I must belabor the point a little bit more. I mentioned this, let the records reflect, board meeting before, when I said that most of our constituents in my district particular can pick up the TV remote and turn to channel 21, 22, or 23, and they've been asking what happened. So I'm deaf. Did I hear some noise? No? Okay, just a minute, Miss Rasmussen. So this is one of the times that I will say that I'm almost one step ahead of you, but probably not.
I apologize if I forgot.
And so I just need to mention that you and I are on the same page. I have many of our older citizens, our older constituents who've been very good to this district. Why don't I see you all on the school board anymore? I don't know how to get you on Zoom. What is Zoom anyway? And to the extent that we can talk about this and come up with a way that we can still be of service through providing opportunities to have the community know what it is we're doing so that they can feel that they are part of the school system. At this point, if I'm to believe them, they don't feel that they are part of it anymore because they don't know. And many of them don't take the newspaper, but they've got a television set. And so I'm with you. Together, if we could relook this and see what the cost was. I don't know what the other sister governments are doing, but I don't work for them. I don't mean that like that, but I do. I work for these constituents. And so to the extent that we might find a way to get us back on TV, I think it could serve us. And I kind of see that as putting money in the classroom too, because if they know what we're doing with their children, then that's money in the classroom.
And it's not intended to be self-serving,
No.
Ms. Bowen.
No.
I'm not even talking about our school board meeting, but the resource of information that I think about my own great grandmother, who was my first teacher while my mother was in college. I was raised by my great grandmother. My great grandmother, if she had me now, would not find out information from the different types of templates and portals that we use to communicate, but she would be able to find out, but particularly when that thing just scrolled and rolled. Right. Well, Daryl's got a such and such going on, and the school, and to be able to see the school, I just think it's a wonderful resource, and it helps to communicate to populations who deal with digital disparity.
Divide. Yeah. Period. Okay. So Ms. Rasmussen, are you speaking at this point?
I'm here, but I heard the noise that you heard, but it wasn't me, so I'm happy.
Okay, so somebody's in pain. Well, we're going to take them out of pain because at this point, unless there is more business to come before this board, hearing none, we are adjourned.
Dr. Gill, thank you.
Oh, Dr. Gale, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Because I know you.
Yeah.
Get me up here crying back in the rain. It was the when I saw it, I remember taking a razor blade and trying to, do nice presentation. Pick up the layer just to lighten up because it was that dark brown, it was that jet black, and you're trying to find your face.
Alva, so you part of January, but you know,
We could do a whole
Every time I'm around it, and they have they have to call themselves because of the all they had to do was add freckles. That's all they had to do.
What I did is say, this is probably one of the most substantive school board meetings, and I've been to a few, as you know, particularly in February, thanks to Dr. Gale. I'm happy to- It was great. Oh, yeah. Oh, amazing. Yeah. Yeah. So, yep. You and I shared that one. What is that? Hey, Dale. What is it, the medication?
Well rested. And I ate peanuts the whole time.
He didn't go to school. Oh, Daryl, guess what Denver said to me the other day?